Many people are quite excited about electric vehicles as a climate solution, but others say it's all hype and electric cars won't really help us. So, do you think electric cars are good news?
Oh, absolutely. Electric cars are good news. When you're using an electric car, you're not burning gasoline or diesel, and so you're not emitting CO2. And of course, at the same time, if we're making electricity for the electric vehicle, we have to make sure that those emissions fall as well. But that's already happening now in developed countries and soon in developing. So that means that the switch to an electric car will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And then also, a really big plus is that they're not polluting. And we know we have issues with air pollution in all our cities, but especially in the developing world. And so this is a great motive for moving to electric vehicles throughout the planet.
So, I think one big concern that people have is the range on electric vehicles. People say you can't travel as far and then you have to recharge it and wait for hours until the battery is fully recharged. So, do you think they can actually be a true substitute to gasoline vehicles?
Well, again, I think developments have been faster than certainly most experts predicted, in the sense that we now have a range that's over 500 kilometers, is becoming almost the norm. It started with Tesla, but now other cars. And also recharging times are getting much faster as well. And then finally, if you are someone who's using a vehicle in a way, you're going out of town a lot or you're driving all the time, we have plug-in hybrid cars. And these cars, they have a gasoline engine, but if you're using them in the city, you can basically be using them just on the batteries like an electric vehicle all the time. And research right now is showing that means that people that have plug-in hybrids are also great contributors to the reduction of greenhouse gases.
So, most of Canada gets quite cold in the winter, which means that we're going to be draining the battery faster because you also have to use it for heating the interior of the car. Do you think that's going to be a problem?
Yeah, so I think that the colder the country, or even very hot because you have to run air conditioning to cool the interior of the car. So either one of those is a challenge, and I think it's especially a challenge if you're both using that electric car and trying to drive long distances. But if you're using it in the city, this is why governments now are setting up where you can charge the car at home, you can charge the car at work, you can charge the car where you're shopping. So even in the dead of winter in Canada, and we're seeing this Norway now, massive adoption of electric vehicles, and there's some pretty cold areas in the north of Norway. And what happens is people are figuring out how to recharge more frequently if necessary.
Another big concern is about what are we doing with batteries at the end of their lives? Are we going to end up with a huge pile of lithium batteries?
Yeah, I mean, this is a legitimate concern. And the more I've looked into it myself, and I'm not an expert, but it just seems obvious to me that we're going to set up mechanisms to recycle those batteries. And if you read the expert literature, that's technically possible. We may need governments to require it one day, but I think we're going to handle that just fine.
Now, what about the cost of electric vehicles? Many people are just thinking that, they're too expensive and they just can't afford an electric vehicle right now.
Yeah, so I mean, they are expensive compared to a gasoline vehicle. Now, you do have to remember that if you are driving a fair bit, then their cost of energy might be a quarter or a fifth, because the engine is so much. Even if electricity is fairly expensive, the efficiency of the electric motor is far greater than the gasoline motor. And then in terms of of how you might buy this, some people are like, I got to buy this thing myself, no matter how expensive. Well, the first electric vehicle I was involved in buying, I bought it with someone else. So we bought a Nissan Leaf together. And then later on, a couple of years later, I bought a Chevy Bolt. So I don't buy the Tesla, but I got a Chevy Bolt, and I bought it at low interest rates, and I'm paying it off over 3 years. And so those are all legitimate ways that you can deal with this. Also, I now have some friends who have bought secondhand electric vehicles. So you don't have to look at a Tesla to try to figure out whether or not you can afford an electric vehicle.